Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and today we're going to learn all about the orchestral tambourine. Before we start, I wanted to show you 3 tambourines that I use on a regular basis with the symphony. This first tambourine is a Grover single row instrument with a wooden shell. It has a calf skin head. I like this instrument because it's very light and it's easy to play long shake rolls, as well as quick rhythms on my knee. And again, the light weight of it helps out with that a great deal. This next instrument is a Black Swamp dual row chromium bronze tambourine with a wooden shell and again a calfskin head. This instrument is a little bit darker and it's great for shake rolls as well. It's a little bit heavier than the single row instrument, which makes it good for playing dry rhythms, dry soft rhythms. Flat on your thigh. Finally, we have the largest instrument of the group. It's a German silver tambourine made by Lefty. It's a little darker than the German silver of the Grover. And this instrument's terrific for really long thumb rolls because there's lots of real estate. It's a very large head. I believe this is a 13.5-inch head. Okay, and it's very difficult to do a shake roll with this instrument. It's doable, but it's extremely heavy and large. So let's talk about playing the tambourine. First of all, the grip. The fingers are going to rest inside the shell, as you see, and the thumb is going to be on top of the head, as you see. This hole here is for a cymbal stand. Do not put your fingers in it. You're liable to hurt yourself. Now, general playing position is like this, but you have to be aware of the different sounds you can get by holding the tambourine in different positions. When you hold the tambourine flat, it's generally much drier than any other position. That's because the jingles are resting flat. When you hold it like this, straight up, it's very wet sounding because the jingles are moving. So the general playing position is somewhere between that dry and that wet sound. And you see how it changes. It's very important to be aware of your position at all times and make it match with the ensemble, with the music. Dry sounds should be flat. Wet sounds or ringing sounds should be straight up like that. The general playing position of your striking hand should be right off center, similar to a snare drum. So right here. Now you see I make this kind of poking motion. I put my fingers together. I use my wrist to get distinct rhythms. You don't want to use an open hand like that. Sometimes you can use a couple fingers if you need to be softer, but we'll get into soft techniques in a little bit here. Playing very loud shots, marcato shots, are done with a flat fist. And to make that ring, again, you hold it upright and you get that almost reverb effect. Do not use your fist like that or any other way. Now you may see that I'm playing lefty. A lot of you watch my videos, you know I'm a righty. I learned to play tambourine lefty for several reasons. The first being that you have to hold the tambourine and do lots of shake rolls. And sometimes those shake rolls will end with the thumb roll. So. And I tend to do thumb rolls better with my left hand. Also, if you have to flip the tambourine like that, then you're in position to play on your knee quickly And of course, I do this right-handed, as most people do, or with your strong hand. Therefore, the left hand will do the striking, and the right hand will do the principal rhythms on your knee. I hope that makes sense. If not, send me the emails. Okay, so let's talk about rolls. There's two kinds of rolls. There's a thumb roll, which is done by creating friction. You might want to wet your thumb, and you play on the edge with your thumb. You can also do a finger roll like that. I do not normally use finger rolls. Lots of people do, though. There's so many ways to play this instrument. I'm just showing you the way I play it. To end the roll, you will use the palm of your hand like that. The other way you can end a roll is later on I'm going to show you a technique that makes a lot of this obsolete, a way of playing the tambourine in your lap, which you'll see. But the basic thumb roll is ended with your palm. Now, shake rolls happen when you take the tambourine back and forth in a quicker motion. And generally what I'm doing, I'm just moving my arm back and forth with a very, very relaxed shoulder. It's important to just breathe and relax your whole body before you do this. It's very easy to tense up and try to do, and the tension will be in your neck. You do not want to do that. You want to pick up the tambourine and start by doing that motion. As it gets faster, your arm will be a little bit rigid here, but it's mostly in your wrist. Now, I tell my students that they should be able to do at least a 30-second roll in each hand. It's very important to be ambidextrous. So your left hand looks like this. That's because if you have lots and lots of rolls in a piece, you're bound to get tired, especially when you're my age. And it's great to be able to switch hands. Let this hand, wrist, arm rest a little while this is going, and then you can just switch back. So that's extremely important. Now let's talk about a few different kinds of thumb rolls. Now, the first thumb roll is obviously, I showed you already, the basic thumb roll. There's a Forte piano thumb roll that's done like this. That's kind of tricky, and when you attack it, you're coming up from a distance. And to get a crescendo for a thumb roll, you actually go faster. Or I do anyway. So, to play a very quiet thumb roll, you would just play on the very edge with the least amount of contact of your thumb on the instrument. Now you see I keep wetting my thumb. It's important to keep it moist. Some people might use a sponge. I do not buy into the sandpaper on the tambourine thing. I tried that once and it basically scraped my fingerprints off. I do not also buy into the polyurethaning the tambourine. The head, I just find it changes the sound too much. Some people may want to do that. I have a tambourine like that I did, but I rarely use it because of that. And once it's done, you can't undo it. A lot of people use beeswax. I don't use too much of that. Sometimes the problem with beeswax on a tambourine is you can get stuck. Normally, after you warm up, like you saw earlier, it was stuttering a little. Once your thumb is warm, it's moist, then it's easy. The tambourine's ready to go. The problem is when you're sitting for a while, and then you have to stand up and play a bunch of rolls. That can be a little nerve-wracking. So you may want to very quietly, just do this before you come in. And I do that sometimes. The audience can't see it, they can't hear it, and that'll get your thumb going and the tambourine going so you have a feel for that roll. So you don't just stand up and nothing comes out, which is not a good situation. So back to the Forte piano roll. You attack it just like a timpani where you hit the note, you let it ring, and then you proceed with the roll. So, and then you go fast. All right. So those are common, and I get a lot of questions from students. How do I do that? That's impossible. Well, it's not. You just have to work on it. Now, for longer thumb rolls, you have a couple options. The easiest being just get a bigger tambourine. So this is a La Fima, like I said before. It's very large, so I can start here at the bottom and go all the way around. Some folks do a figure 8, and I've tried that too. It's very, very difficult, and you cannot get rid of the little bit of the hitch that you see. Now, in a minute here, I'm going to show you a way to do a continuous thumb roll on your knee. But if you want to do a figure 8, that's fine. It's just the hitch could be a problem. So I just use a larger tambourine. And again, Forte piano, just go faster. Okay, so now let's talk about playing on your knee and soft playing. Soft playing can be done lots of ways. In this case, since I'm a righty, I'm going to hold the tambourine in my left hand, because I have more control with my right hand. And I'm going to tap the tambourine like this. Certain pieces like Prokofiev, Romeo and Juliet, there's many, many others call for very soft pianissimo tambourine notes. And you need to make them sound all the same. In that case, your palm sits in the center of the instrument and your fingers are grouped together in that pointer poking position, and it's just a simple repetitive movement. Now this may seem really easy, but when you're in a concert hall and every single sound is amplified tenfold, you'll be glad for this technique. Now you can also use one finger, and if you want to dampen the tambourine, you can use a Pandero Brazilian tambourine technique. Just put your fingers under it and it dampens it some. You're not going to get that completely dry sound that you get with your palm on the instrument. Now obviously this is only good for slower rhythms because it's very difficult to play. You can go similar to playing Carmen, the tambourine opening, the bizet. Okay, so our solution then for fast rhythms is to put the tambourine upside down and press your forearms onto the back of the rim. And then you can use your fingers to play rhythms. You can use one finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers. Each time it gets louder. Normally I use 3 fingers with the pinky kind of floating in the air. Don't do that when you play snare drum. Now, when you want to play a little louder, you can play inside the tambourine. You can even get louder by pushing out the tambourine on your thigh. So you can go back and forth on your thigh and change the dynamic, which is very handy. And this particular tambourine is very good for playing those kinds of rhythms. There's lots of different kinds that work for that particular technique. This is a good one for it. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. Fingers, and when you want to get it louder, you move it past your knee. It does become a little wetter then. And then also you can play louder by playing inside. Now you may say, well, why do you have to turn the tambourine over? Why can't I just do this? Well, the problem is you can't move it back and forth because when you do, it just collapses on your knee, as you see. So you lose that ability. However, you can play like that. But generally, the tambourine sounds best upside down. Now, how do we get it upside down seamlessly? Well, it's pretty simple. You do what's known as a tambourine flip. So if you're playing a roll, when you hit the last note, if you do it with your fist or your fingers, you flip the tambourine. So, as you see, you don't want to do this because you'll hear that in a concert hall loudly. So the flip, or if you're playing a rhythm, or so in that motion, the last motion, you're flipping the tambourine, and sometimes you'll have to go right into that kind of rhythm. So the flip is very important to master. Now let's talk about very loud, fast rhythms. There's a particular way to do these. It's very common. I'm sure you've all seen it. is you play on your knee. There's two ways to do your striking hand. And as I explained before, I use my right hand to hold the instrument and my left hand to strike the instrument. Okay, so you can do it the opposite way. It's fine, but I like that way because my right hand is stronger. So you can use that poking motion again, the pointer, to play, or you can use the flat fifth. Now you can either start with your knee, so the knee would be the first stroke, or your fist. That's totally up to you. The point is just to get it to sound as clean and even as possible. Because what you're doing is you're going between two hard surfaces. So just like playing snare drum, going through stick control, getting your hands even, you want to do the same thing. Now it's important not to get the shuffling kind of sound like a lot of students get at first, which is uneven and useless pretty much unless you're playing a shuffle. So you're going to want to practice sixteenths with a metronome, maybe with headphones so you can hear it, and play really clean sixteenths. Now what's really helpful is to do etudes with accents. So in other words, get this going and then do rhythms. So takes a lot of energy, but if you practice enough, it'll be clean. So that takes lots and lots of practice. And it needs to look good too. It can't look like you're struggling, or, it should be pleasing to the eye, if that helps at all. Okay? So that's something that will take you, a technique that'll take you a really long time to master. Finally, let's talk about a technique that I feel like I invented, but haven't seen anyone else do it yet for several reasons, which we'll talk about. Years ago, I was playing a lot of contemporary music, and as we all know, a lot of composers, they compose on their keyboards, and they might press a button for shake roll, a sample, and, button for hit, button for thumb roll, all that. Anyway, they're not playing through these parts themselves. The problem is when the music is brought in, is that you get these tambourine parts that are impossible to play any other way. So I kind of got tired of seeing these, and I wanted to come up with a way that I could play anything stress-free. It might not be the loudest way, it might not be the most visual way, but it was a stress-free way of playing. So what I did was I experimented with getting the tambourine on my lap and keeping it balanced there and trying to be able to play thumb rolls, so kind of like a snare drum technique where your fingers are the sticks. So you can use that to play Stravinsky Petrushka. I do sometimes, otherwise I'll play it the normal way. But this way, with the light tambourine, it sounds really good. One great way to practice this is to do snare drum etudes. I've used the Cerrone book, just playing tambourine. Now, to play a continuous roll, like we talked about before, you can do both fingers like that. A little bit of a hitch in there, but not too bad. It's useful. So you can play continuous roll, just go on forever with it. There's really no other technique to play a pianissimo tambourine roll. Even the figure 8 roll, you can't do that because it's going to be loud. So this enables you to play a really long, really soft roll. There's no other way to do that. And you can time your switches on the bar or on the beat so they're almost invisible. So I call that lap tambourine playing, and you just have to try to balance it. You can try to get it into your hip like that. It's very difficult, but it takes a lot of practice, but it's doable, okay? So that, if you can master that technique, it will make anything playable on the tambourine, and it's a very stress-free way. It's great for sight reading. Any part can be played that way. So I hope you enjoyed this little tambourine lesson. And if you have any questions, I always enjoy your questions. Please email me. I'll be glad to get back to you. And thanks for watching.